evidence, such as high mold readings. They charge homeowners search fees. That's where you pay to be abused, and order other expensive repairs. If a homeowner doesn't comply, their homes are tagged under the bylaw and effectively condemned as unsafe and unusable. And, I mean, oh my God, we are in so much trouble. And then I've got it out of England, where it was a guinea pig. Bradford cannabis raid finds guinea pig heater. You have a heater for your guinea pig. Here comes the SWAT team. Okay, Ray McGovern's going to be with us for just 2 segments. Former top CIA analyst Ronald Reagan, George Bush Sr. coming up in the next segment. Then I'm going to open the phones up. In fact, if you want to go ahead and get lined up to quarterback this, folks, you want to call in about any of the issues I've already raised, I'd like to hear from Austinites if you can get on. You can get through about 40% rate increase on average last year. The city says 80%, and they say it's for the earth. So private companies make a bigger profit by shutting down their competition, and the city regulates it so you pay more artificially, and then says it's for the earth that General Electric power plants supplying Austin make more money. I mean, it is so outlandishly, nakedly criminal. So the toll-free number to join us is 800-259-9231. 800-259-9231. What do you think about in the U.S., Canada, and England, and Australia and New Zealand? They fly over your house with helicopters, or they check your power bill. And when they see that you're using more power than you should, surveilling you without warrants, they come and SWAT team your house. And when no marijuana is found, they bring in house inspectors to find leaks or windows that don't have the right caulking and give you fines. It's the message of, you're always wrong, you're always a criminal, we the nanny state are always right, and we're going to eat out your substance. They've told all these counties and cities, you're going to lose your jobs unless you raise more money, because the city's all invested in derivatives and are basically bankrupted by design. So now they've got to get even more money to give it to the bankers that, you know, control their little criminal city manager, so they can do that. And no amount of squeezing will ever get you enough money to keep your job. In 3 or 4 years, it's already begun in some areas, after you're done exsanguinating, sucking your county and city dry, they're going to fire most of you. So suck everything you can out of everybody, pay it to the bankers that suck all the money out of your town, and then get ready to be fired. Because I've talked to the police and others, they tell them, they say, you got to raise more money, or you're going to get laid off, or you're going to get your pay cut, and you got to do this. You got to do this. Look at this article I was just reading. It says, I'm looking for the part here where it says they track your power consumption. And it says that once they see that that you're using too much power, that's when they come to your house and demand to inspect it. Here it is. Grow-op bylaw programs sound like a bad dream based on provincial legislation. They allow municipal inspectors to enter homes, what they deem, so they're God now. See, no judge, no jury, no. And this is in the U.S., England, and Canada. They're all under common law in Canada as well. Quote, abnormally high electricity usage, about 93 kilowatts or more a day, and look for evidence. See, they look in your house without a warrant for the evidence of illegal marijuana grow-ops for public safety. And what's worse, when no marijuana is found, you are always charged for the inspection. Oh, isn't that loving? And, of course, now people that have snakes, lizards, or guinea pigs, here's the BBC, Bradford cannabis raid finds guinea pig heater. I talked to an Austin cop more than a decade ago, and he said, oh, yeah, a lot of times, yeah, we check people's power bills, and we broke into one house. We had a warrant, but we broke in. The lady was gone. So it was like a 90-something-year-old retired UT professor, they found out, who had a whole bunch of fish tanks. She was a fish scientist. I forget the name of that. I know a person that studies birds is an ornithologist. And there was dozens of fish tanks in there, and they just left. Never even told her they were there. But hey, that's watching your power consumption. I mean, again, it's just, hey, wasn't the Bill of Rights and Constitution, wasn't the Magna Carta nice in England and Canada, New Zealand, Australia? I guess we had these basic liberties for reasons, huh?
You've heard
Every day we spend at least half an hour covering Iran, because if there's a war with Iran, the different possibilities run from bad to worse. That's why the last two chairmen of the Joint Chiefs of Staff have told Israel, do not attack Iran. That's why the former head of Mossad basically got fired a year ago by Bibi Netanyahu for saying don't do it. That's why most of his general staff have said don't do it. Now, it's now being reported that Netanyahu was the guy 2 days ago that canceled the naval drill and ground drills with the U.S., basically steaming towards a confrontation in the Strait of Hormuz for the Iranians. The Iranians, because of their military bases being blown up and their scientists being assassinated, have said, okay, we'll stop denying that you're engaged in guerrilla warfare and sabotage against us, because our public now knows you're doing it. And yeah, we look weak. So we'll just attack your ships if you come back through the Strait of Hormuz, which is a wild escalation. And the head of their parliamentary intelligence arm said we'll attack Tel Aviv and New York in asymmetrical warfare, a huge escalation. And I didn't just believe the Jerusalem Post when I saw that 2 weeks ago. I went to the Iranian news agencies, Press TV and others, and they did say that. So joining us is Ray McGovern to break down the huge escalations. Here is the Hill newspaper today. The U.S. and Iran inch closer to military conflict. The sanctions are going on, which are crippling at the end of the month against the gasoline that they import. They export raw oil, they import gas, because the West for decades won't let them ship in refinery equipment. Halliburton gave themselves a waiver in the White House where they could sell them some. And so what they have is Halliburton. Incredible corruption here by the folks lecturing us on how evil Iran is. Ray McGovern, of course, is an Army veteran. Vietnam era, and also, of course, a top CIA analyst to Ronald Reagan and George Bush Sr., and he's also a political activist and writes for great organization, consortiumnews.com, and that's the short bio. But he's an analyst, and he's given us stunningly accurate information in the last decade. Ray, looking at this, we're seeing evidence of them not having the naval confrontation, but then separately we're hearing that on Capitol Hill, it's moving closer to confrontation. You've got the sources, both former and current intelligence. What is your intel, sir, on where we are right now on that doomsday clock?
Well, Alex, I think the big news is the cancellation of the very large joint exercises that had been planned for this spring with Israel and the United States. This is a biggie. There were several thousand U.S. troops already deployed to Israel, already there, still there, ready to do this exercise. So the reason why it's been canceled, I think Obama has finally been persuaded that he has to put the brakes on Israel and its attempts to start something with Iran, something that he would drag the United States into. Things are very dicey there. As you probably know, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, Martin Dempsey, is due in Israel, I believe, tomorrow or Thursday to talk to his opposite numbers. Now, what's the bottom line for me? Well, the bottom line for me still is how seriously Benjamin Netanyahu and his defense minister, Ehud Barak, how seriously they take our president. Do they believe that he would have the courage not to support the Israeli military were they to provoke or to start some military action against Iran? Or do they think he's a wuss? Pardon the expression. That's in the Bronx. That's what we would call a person who would not even stand up for his sister, the worst possible crime. Do they think that they can put their right thumb on their nose and wiggle the rest of their fingers when he tells them, please don't build any more settlements, or please don't attack the U.S. boat to Gaza. Or, well, you know, they are used to thumbing their nose at the president and receiving great applause from our standing Congress people every time he comes to address a joint meeting of Congress. So the most important thing is how seriously the Israelis take our president when he apparently told Netanyahu on the phone last Thursday, please don't start a war against Iran. Do they have to take that seriously, or in more Israeli fashion, could they start something and rather than ask for permission or even tell us about it, ask for sort of quasi-forgiveness after the die is cast? I don't know, but it's getting very, very dicey there. And the president's record in facing into what the Israelis want to do on this or that issue has not been good. And so I continue to worry, even though this sign of the canceled exercise is a very positive sign. Let me just add a footnote here, Alex. If I'm not the president, but if I were, I wouldn't be sending all my officials to Tel Aviv. You know, he sent Panetta last month, and now he's sending the head of the armed forces, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, Dempsey. I would say, look, send your head of the IDF, send your equivalent to the chairman of the Joint Chiefs.
It does look like the United States is being summoned. It looks like the tail is wagging the dog.
Yeah, it looks like we're in the role of the person making the entreaty. Please don't do this. And I would expect that at least there would be a reciprocal arrangement. If our Secretary of Defense Panetta is going to go to Tel Aviv, at least they could ask the head of their armed forces, their chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff equivalent, to come here. And you know, it really matters what the locale is. And if you want to read somebody the Riot Act, as to his great credit, Admiral Mullen did 2 years ago, when it looked like the Israelis were about to do what they may be about to do now, he went over there and he made a speech as soon as he arrived in Jerusalem. And he said, you know, a war with Iran would be a very, very, very bad idea.
And he raised the USS Liberty, which was unprecedented.
That's exactly right. So, you know, if you want to underscore how serious the situation is, you pick a Navy admiral who knows about the USS Liberty, who knows how easy it is to get into a fighting match, either deliberately or by accident in a close place like the Persian Gulf. Now, Dempsey, he doesn't, you know, the jury is out on Dempsey, but the way he bubbled up to the top, so to speak, suggests to me that he's more a creature of the Pentagon system, where generals promote other generals depending on how often they've been able to avoid being involved in any controversy. All right,
well, let's expand on this, Ray. What changed in the last 4 to 5 days? And I guess it must be face-saving then, if reportedly Obama said don't do this, and then now Netanyahu says he canceled it, as U.S. and Israeli papers are reporting. What changed? I mean, from what I've seen, the Russian foreign minister and the deputy prime minister, as you know, came out and said, this is an attack on our national interest, which is a signal for we'll get involved. The Chinese have said we'll get involved because 20% of their oil comes out of Iran. Did that enter into this, the fact that Russia and China made noises that they're not going to sit on the sidelines?
Well, Alex, first off, I would say that the word that Netanyahu cancel the exercises